Get the door, Evan. Make yourself useful for once, Vivian Hawthorne said without looking up from her magazine, her voice dripping with disdain. I bit back a retort and moved toward the foyer of their sprawling mansion. This was the weekly Hawthorne family dinner, and as Isla's fiancée, I was expected to endure their subtle and not-so-subtle jabs with a smile. The fact that they thought I was a struggling freelance writer who couldn't possibly provide for their precious daughter made me the perfect target. If they only knew. The doorbell chimed again impatiently. I swung it open to find Richard Hawthorne, Isla's brother and the current CEO of Hawthorne Enterprises, standing there with his third trophy wife. "Evan," he said, barely acknowledging me as he brushed past. "I hope you didn't cook tonight. My stomach still hasn't recovered from your last attempt at beef Wellington." His wife Cassandra giggled on cue, her diamond earrings catching the light as she tossed her platinum blonde hair. "Actually, Mom hired a caterer," I replied pleasantly. "I just cleaned the entire house and set the table." Richard snorted. "Of course you did. Good to know Isla has found herself a competent househusband." I smiled tightly. In exactly 72 hours, I would own the company that had been in his family for 3 generations. But tonight, I was just Evan Carter, the unworthy boyfriend who didn't belong in their world. "Evan." Isla's warm voice floated down the hallway as she emerged from her father's study. My heart still skipped when I saw her, brilliant, compassionate Isla with her sharp mind and gentle heart. "You didn't have to get the door. You've done enough today." She slipped her arm through mine, her touch an island of comfort in this sea of hostility. "Someone had to," I murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Your mother was busy judging the latest society gossip." Isla sighed. "I'm sorry. They're impossible." "Don't apologize. It's not your fault your family thinks I am lower status than you." "Evan," she whispered fiercely, "you are the best thing that ever happened to me." "I don't care what they think." But I cared. I cared because every dismissive glance and condescending remark cut her deeply, forcing her to choose between her family and me. I cared because the Hawthornes had spent Isla's entire life undermining her confidence and dictating her choices. And I cared because of Malcolm Hawthorne. Had destroyed my father 15 years ago without a second thought. Dinner was the usual parade of barbed comments disguised as concern. "Isla tells us you've been working on a book," Malcolm said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. At 68, he still commanded the room like a general, his silver hair and tailored suit projecting power and old money. "What's it about?" "Something that might actually sell, I hope." "It's about family dynasties," I replied, meeting his gaze. "Specifically, how they rise and fall due to pride and poor decision-making." Isla kicked me gently under the table, a warning I chose to ignore. "Fascinating," Malcolm said coldly. "Though I imagine research is challenging without connections to actual successful families." Vivian placed a manicured hand on her husband's arm. "Malcolm, be nice. I'm sure Evan's little stories are very creative." She turned to Isla. "Darling, Congressman Mitchell's son asked about you at the charity gala last weekend. He's taking over his father's law firm next year." "Mom," Isla said with strained patience, "I'm engaged to Evan. I'm not interested in Congressman Mitchell's son or anyone else." "An engagement can be broken," Richard interjected. "Especially when you're clearly rushing into things with someone who, let's be honest, brings nothing to the table." My hand tightened around my fork. The weight of my secret pressed against my chest, begging to be unleashed. 3 more days. Just 3 more days. "Evan brings plenty to the table," Isla defended, her voice tight with anger. "He's brilliant, supportive, and doesn't measure a person's worth by their bank account." "How convenient for him," Cassandra murmured, just loud enough to be heard. I placed my napkin beside my plate and stood. "I'll get dessert." In the kitchen, I braced my hands against the marble countertop, breathing deeply. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Maya, my lawyer. "Final paperwork filed." Transfer of ownership scheduled for Monday, 9 a.m. Congratulations, Mr. Secret Billionaire. I allowed myself a small smile. The Hawthornes had no idea that Evan Carter was actually Evan Sterling, son of the late Gideon Sterling, the brilliant inventor whose patents and company had been stolen through corporate espionage orchestrated by none other than Malcolm Hawthorne. After my father passed away, I changed my name and dedicated my life to rebuilding our fortune in secret. 15 years of strategic investments and calculated risks had made me wealthier than the Hawthornes could imagine. And now, thanks to their company's recent financial troubles and my anonymous holding company's timely offer, I was about to become their boss. All except Isla knew nothing about my past or my wealth. I'd met her at a literary event where I was researching for my book, and our connection had been instant and genuine. I'd kept my secrets, telling myself I would reveal everything once my plan was complete. Now, as I arranged dessert plates on a tray, I wondered if that had been a mistake. So the wedding is in June? Vivian was asking as I returned with the dessert, a tiramisu I'd made from scratch that morning, though I'd let them believe it was store-bought. May, Isla corrected. We told you 3 times, Mom. May, then, Vivian sniffed. Though I still think a winter wedding at the plaza would be more appropriate. The Hawthorne name can get you on the waiting list. We're getting married in the botanical gardens, I said, serving the dessert. It's what Isla wants. Malcolm made a dismissive noise. What Isla needs is someone who can maintain the lifestyle she deserves. These romantic notions are all well and good, but marriage is fundamentally a merger of compatible assets. Dad. Isla protested. I'm simply being realistic, he continued. Evan seems like a nice enough young man, but what can he offer you? A life of struggling to make rent? Vacations at budget resorts? Children who won't have the advantages you had? I sat back down, my patience finally snapping. Mr. Hawthorne, has it ever occurred to you that Isla might want different things than you want for her? The table fell silent. Excuse me. Malcolm's voice was dangerously low. Your daughter graduated top of her class with a business degree that she's never been allowed to use because you insisted the company wasn't a place for women. She developed a revolutionary supply chain management system during her internship that you dismissed without even reviewing it. And now she's engaged to someone you haven't bothered to know beyond his bank statement. Evan, Isla whispered, her eyes wide. Malcolm's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. How dare you speak to me this way in my own home? How dare you treat your daughter like an asset instead of a person? I countered. Isla is brilliant, capable, and deserves to be taken seriously. I think it's time for you to leave, Richard said coldly. I looked at Isla, whose face reflected a complex mix of shock, gratitude, and uncertainty. I'll wait in the car, I told her softly. As I walked out, I heard Vivian say, See, Isla? No class whatsoever. This is not the kind of man who belongs in our world. She was right about one thing, I didn't belong in their world. But by Monday morning, they would be living in mine. The drive home was tense. Isla stared out the window of my modest Honda Civic, another piece of my carefully constructed facade. You shouldn't have said those things. She finally spoke as we pulled into the driveway of our comfortable but deliberately unimpressive home. Someone needed to, I said, turning off the engine. I'm tired of watching them tear you down. They're still my family, Evan. I reached for her hand. A family that doesn't see how extraordinary you are. Isla's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand the pressure. The expectations. The Hawthorne name comes with responsibilities. Responsibilities they've never allowed you to fulfill, I pointed out. They put your brother in charge despite your superior qualifications. They dismiss your ideas without consideration. They treat you like an ornament rather than an executive. And what would you know about running a business? She asked, then immediately looked contrite. I'm sorry. That was unfair. I swallowed hard. It was time. Isla, there's something I need to tell you. Can it wait until morning? I'm exhausted. I hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Inside, I made her chamomile tea while she changed into pajamas. Our home was comfortable and filled with books. My actual passion, though not my only talent. I'd built a life with Isla that felt real and honest in every way except for the secrets I kept. As I carried the tea upstairs, I heard her on the phone. I don't care what Dad thinks, Madison, she was saying to her cousin. Evan is the best thing that's happened to me. Yes, I know he doesn't have money, but that doesn't matter. No, I haven't told him yet. I'm waiting for the right time. Hadn't told me what? I paused outside the bedroom door, listening. I know Dad will disown me, but I've made my decision. I'm going to turn down the position at Hawthorne Enterprises. Evan's book is almost finished, and we can move to Colorado like we've talked about. Get away from all this family pressure. My heart sank. Isla was planning to give up her birthright, for me. For a future based on lies. I entered the room, setting down the tea perhaps a bit too forcefully. Isla looked up, quickly ending her call. We need to talk, I said. Now. Your real name is Evan Sterling? Isla repeated, her voice hollow with disbelief. We sat on opposite ends of our sofa, the distance between us feeling like miles. Your father was Gideon Sterling of Sterling Innovations? I nodded. The company your father destroyed through corporate espionage and predatory litigation. And you're wealthy? She seemed to be struggling to reconcile this new information with a man she thought she knew. Very, I admitted. The modest lifestyle, the freelance writing, it's all been part of a plan. A plan to what? Infiltrate my family. Her voice cracked. Was dating me part of your revenge scheme? No. I moved closer, reaching for her hands. She pulled away. Meeting you was completely unexpected. I fell in love with you, Isla. That was never part of any plan. But you kept this massive secret. You let me defend you to my family while you were plotting against them. I was planning to tell you everything after. After what? Her eyes narrowed. Evan, what have you done? I took a deep breath. On Monday morning, I'm taking control of Hawthorne Enterprises. The color drained from her face. What? Your father has run the company into the ground. He's overleveraged, facing 3 class action lawsuits, he's kept quiet, and the board is in revolt. My holding company offered a buyout that gives him a dignified exit before everyone discovers how bad things really are. Isla stood abruptly. This can't be happening. It's already done. The papers are signed. And what happens to my family? To the employees? The company continues under new management, I said. Your father gets a generous retirement package in exchange for his silence about certain indiscretions. Your brother gets a position commensurate with his actual abilities, meaning not in charge of anything important. And what about me? She whispered. Where do I fit in your grand revenge plot? I stood, moving toward her cautiously. That's why I'm telling you now. I want you to run the company. Isla laughed bitterly. You're giving me my family's company as what, a gift? A consolation prize for betraying me. I didn't betray you, I insisted. I kept secrets, yes. But everything between us has been real. Including the part where you clean the house and cook dinner while secretly being a billionaire? Was that real, or just part of your disguise? I love cooking for you, I said quietly. I love taking care of our home. Money doesn't change that. She shook her head. You don't get it, Evan. This isn't about the money. It's about trust. How can I believe anything you say when you've been living a double life? Isla, please. I took a step toward her. Your family has held you back for years. This is your chance to show them, to show everyone, what you're capable of. By helping you destroy them. She wrapped her arms around herself. I need to think. I need space. My heart pounded painfully. Where are you going? To Madison's. She grabbed her purse and keys. Don't follow me. As the door closed behind her, I sank onto the sofa, the victory I'd planned for 15 years turning to ashes in my mouth. Isla didn't come home that night. Or the next. My calls went straight to voicemail. Monday morning arrived with cruel inevitability. I dressed in a bespoke suit that had remained hidden at the back of my closet, finally embracing the wealth and power I'd accumulated. The takeover went exactly as planned. Malcolm Hawthorne's face when I walked into the boardroom was everything I'd imagined. Shock, recognition, then pure hatred. You, he snarled. Gideon Sterling, son. The very same, I confirmed, my lawyer Maya distributing documents to the stunned board members. Though I prefer Evan now. This is impossible, Richard stammered, flipping through the acquisition papers. We would have known if a holding company owned by the son of the man your father destroyed was buying your company? I finished for him. That was rather the point of the shell corporations. Malcolm slammed his fist on the table. This is revenge. Pure and simple. This is business, I corrected. Your business practices destroyed my father. The market is now returning the favor. The boardroom doors opened, and Isla walked in. My heart stuttered. She looked magnificent in a tailored charcoal suit, her hair pulled back severely, her expression unreadable. Isla, Vivian gasped. What are you doing here? I invited her, I said, not taking my eyes off the woman I loved and feared I had lost. You knew about this? Richard demanded, his face contorted with betrayal. Not until 2 days ago, Isla replied coldly. She took the empty seat at the far end of the table, deliberately not beside me. I cleared my throat. As I was saying, effective immediately, Hawthorne Enterprises will undergo restructuring. Malcolm Hawthorne will retire with full benefits as negotiated. Richard will transition to a non-executive role. You can't do this, Vivian hissed. This company has been in our family for generations. And it might have remained so if you had recognized the true talent in your family, I replied, looking directly at Isla. My first act as majority shareholder is to appoint a new CEO, someone with the vision and integrity to lead this company into the future. I slid a folder down the table. It stopped perfectly in front of Isla. Ms. Hawthorne, I said formally. The position is yours, if you want it. The room erupted in protests and exclamations. Isla ignored them all, opening the folder with steady hands. Inside was not just the CEO contract, but documentation of every innovation of hers that her father had dismissed, every qualification she possessed that had been ignored. Isla, you can't seriously consider this, her mother pleaded. He's using you to get back at us. No, Isla said quietly, still reading. He's recognizing what you never did. She looked up at me, her expression guarded but resolute. I'll take the position. Malcolm stood so quickly his chair toppled backward. I will not allow this farce to continue. If you do this, Isla, you are no longer my daughter. Isla didn't flinch. I stopped being your daughter the moment you decided I wasn't good enough to run the company I've trained my entire life for. As the Hawthornes stormed out, hurling threats of lawsuits and retribution, Isla remained seated, her posture rigid, her eyes fixed on the contract before her. When we were alone, I approached her cautiously. I know you're angry with me. Furious, she confirmed without looking up. I should have told you everything from the beginning. Yes, she agreed. You should have. I knelt beside her chair, finally catching her gaze. I never meant to hurt you, Isla. Everything I feel for you is real. The life we've built together, the cooking, the cleaning, the quiet evenings reading, that's the man I want to be with you. And this. She gestured to the opulent boardroom. The secret billionaire taking down my family's empire? Who is that man? Someone who has carried anger for too long, I admitted. Someone who thought revenge would feel better than it does. Isla studied me, her brilliant mind working behind those eyes I loved so much. The company was failing anyway, wasn't it? You didn't just manufacture a takeover, you saw an opportunity. I nodded. Your father's pride would have taken everything down with him. At least this way, the company survives. Under my leadership, she added. Was that always the plan? No, I said honestly. That part came after I fell in love with you. After I saw how they dismissed your brilliance. She was quiet for a long moment. I should hate you for this. But I understand wanting to set things right. She closed the folder. I'm taking this job, Evan. Not for you but for me. Because I deserve it. You do, I agreed fervently. And us? She asked, her voice smaller. I reached for her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. That's entirely up to you. I love you, Isla. The man who cooks you breakfast and reads beside you at night, that's the real me. The revenge, the secrets, that was the ghost of a boy who lost his father. Isla intertwined her fingers with mine. I need time. And honesty, complete honesty, from now on. Anything, I promised. She stood, straightening her jacket. Then you can start by helping me clear out my father's office. And tonight, you're cooking dinner. In our real home, not that modest house we've been living in. Our real home. A hint of a smile touched her lips. I assume the secret billionaire has a better place somewhere? With a proper kitchen where you can actually cook for me. For the first time in days, hope flickered in my chest. I might have a penthouse overlooking the park. With a library. Too, actually. Isla nodded decisively. Then that's where we'll start rebuilding. The company, and us. She moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing, Evan. Anything. When we announce my appointment as CEO, we're also announcing my retention of the Hawthorne name professionally. This company was built by my family, and whatever else happens, I am still a Hawthorne. I understood what she was offering, a chance for redemption for her family, even as she forged her own path. Of course, I agreed. Hawthorne Enterprises under the leadership of Isla Hawthorne has a rather impressive ring to it. As we walked out of the boardroom together, side by side, I realized that the revenge I'd plotted for 15 years had transformed into something entirely unexpected. A chance for both of us to rewrite our family legacies, not through destruction, but creation. And I was very lucky to have a chance to cook dinner for the woman I loved in a home where neither of us had to pretend anymore.